We've had our hypo Lexus GSF for just over 6 months now, and if I'm being perfectly honest with you, it's one of those rare cars that I never really tired of. For me personally, it's the complete package that draws you in further and further over time. As we all know, it's certainly not the quickest executive express around. In fact, the BMW M5 Competition and Mercedes AMG E63S could annihilate the Lexus in a straight line drag race with their hugely powerful engines and immense torque. But it's the Lexus that delivers the most fun when you're really having a crack, as well as the perfect balance between performance, handling and ride comfort, even when you're not. And let's not forget about the outstanding build quality and enviable reliability the brand is renowned for. But don't just take my word for it. Plenty of other journos and Car Advice staff have driven the GSF over the test period. So let's find out what they have to say.
I think the Lexus GSF is a really interesting proposition because historically in the 80s or the 90s, if you bought a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz in Australia, you bought them because of the perception of quality that you got with the price tag. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think people in Australia are buying those brands because of the badge perception. Because if you look at the vehicle spec for spec, if you look at the build quality, if you look at the performance, if you look at the way they drive, this thing here matches up to the Europeans in every sense, and in many exceeds them. So for me, I think this is a really impressive offering in that large sedan segment. And performance sedans are something that have always been there, they've always been on the periphery, but if you're in the market for one and you haven't had a look at the GSF, I think you really need to take a proper look at it.
Look, it's refreshing someone is still making a naturally aspirated V8. I spent a fair bit of time in it, and I have to say there's an awful lot to like about it. It's a bit of a sleeper. It looks, you know, apart from the fat rims and tyres, it does look like a more sedate Lexus. It is in fact a bit of a weapon.
Well, my initial thoughts about the Lexus GSF was that it was a little bit underwhelming, to be honest. It had no distinguishing features for a large saloon, and I just found it a bit heavy with the steering. But after driving it for a little while, I actually come to appreciate the engine and the performance of it, and also the features like the front grille and the side vents on the wings.
I think it's a great car. It's not the boring Lexus of years gone by, and to be honest, I've just had fun with it.
The only other V8 rear-driven large four-door sedan out there for around 150 grand is the Chrysler 300 SRT. It's about half the price, but only about half as nice.
It's really nice to drive. It sounds glorious. The way it delivers its power is very smooth and predictable. It's fundamentally an analog car, and in this day and age where more and more turbocharging is coming to the fore and cars are starting to feel a bit more digital, it's just refreshing to be able to drive something that harks back to another era.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm a traditionalist, and driving that naturally aspirated V8 is as good as it gets. Yeah, sure, turbocharging, supercharging is the way of the future, because with ever increasing emissions regulations and efficiency and that kind of thing, it's the best way to generate bulk power. But there's something about the linear power delivery of an NA V8 that's just so intoxicating. It's beautiful to drive at low speed. If you take it out to a track day, it's fantastic. This is a great engine. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But naturally aspirated V8s in any shape, size or form are great engines, but this is a particularly good one.
It's a pleasant change. I miss cars like this. Instant power, lots of noise, and ultimately a lot of fun.
It's a great engine. What it lacks in torque, it makes up for in linearity and soul.
It's actually, when you put it in sport mode or sport plus, it feels really good. The sound when it starts up is just amazing. When you first start up the engine and you hear that roar of the V8, it's amazing. When you don't have it in sport mode and it's in normal mode, it's kind of, I find it a bit heavy, the drive. But you put it in sport and it's a bit trigger happy for the daily commute, but once you get a bit of open road, it's great.
See that thing there? That thing right there is the only thing I don't like about it. That grille is horrendous. It kind of works on such a big car, and I don't love that part of Lexus design on any of their vehicles, to be completely honest, but I guess it tends to work the bigger the vehicle, but still, I reckon if you'd have put that in the hands of a European designer, they might have found a way of finessing that a little bit more. And to be completely honest, that's the only thing I don't like about this car. It's such a good vehicle everywhere else that you've almost got to nitpick to find something you don't like. However, for some people, I guess, if you're really, really into styling, that could be a deal breaker.
Infotainment system and the interior is atrocious. There's so many buttons on the inside of the cabin. I think there's at least 14 on the steering wheel I counted by itself. And that's before you even get to the infotainment system. So the infotainment system, which as I can make out, basically replicates all of the buttons but in a visual form. It's just impossible to use. Like, you've got this weird mouse system that is very, very difficult to actually move when you're on the move, when you're driving around. You can't actually move the mouse and get it to where you want it to get to. So you have to pull over to get the mouse onto something to change either the radio station. Otherwise it's just too distracting when you're driving. So definitely the infotainment system needs a definite upgrade for the car.
The infotainment system is still so hard to use. I don't like using a mouse at work, let alone in a car.
I'm probably not the only one to say this, but that infotainment system has to go. Come on, Lexus, what are you doing? It's fiddly, it's clunky, it's impossible to use on the move, and it's just a frustrating experience. Come on, you can fix it.
This family of 5-litre V8 engines is around 12 years old, and what I don't like about it is they'll soon be put to pasture.
Is it fit for purpose? Absolutely. If what you're after is an Atmo V8 that burbles along like an old school muscle car, then this is the one for you. It's rear-wheel drive, old school charm in an executive saloon package. What's not to like about it other than the infotainment system?
When it launched, the GSF really carved its own niche, but these days it's really starting to lack for, well, torque and tech.
For a executive large saloon, I think it's definitely fit for purpose, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Look, my wife, the kids, myself, we've all had a heck of a lot of fun in that car. It's a great car to drive. It's easy to get around town and always puts a smile on the face.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is fit for purpose because this is designed at, a high-ranking executive, someone who's earning a certain amount of money, someone who has a certain position at work, and they have certain, I guess, reasons that they buy a car. They've got things that they look at that it has to tick those boxes. This does all of those. It's comfortable, it sounds fantastic, it feels premium, got heaps of room in the second row, a large boot. It's a stylish looking car. I mean, I know I don't love the grille, but it's a stylish looking vehicle nonetheless. I don't know that it gets any better in terms of fit for purpose for what this kind of buyer would want.
Well, there you have it. Opinions from others who have spent a good deal of time in the Lexus. But for me, handing this back will definitely leave a void in my daily commute.